Welcome to the Zesty Podcast. We are Megan and Dr. Alex. We are here for transformation. Yours, ours, and the collective. Personal and professional for practitioners. But not just any transformation. Compassionate transformation. Because between the two of us, we have seemed to have done things the painful way. Let our pitfalls become your stepping stones. We aren't afraid to share our raw and vulnerable truths in order to help you transform your thinking, your body, your heart, and your soul. Combining 15 years of functional medicine with brain-based habit change to lead you to the best life possible in a compassionate way. Compassion, yes, yet plan to roll up your sleeves. Transformation requires your participation. And a quick reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor, not this doctor, before making changes. Now let's get into the episode. Hello there, Dr. Alex here with you. Welcome back to the podcast. So happy that you are here. Today we're going to talk about the 4 dangers of imbalanced feminine and masculine. Okay. And this is not to fearmonger or anything like that, but for a lot of these discussions about masculine and feminine, that at the heart of it, people tend to listen to this stuff and be like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. This is all good. I'm hearing what you're putting down. That's all great. And then they're like, cool, let me just keep living my life. That was interesting to think about, right? And the thing is that what we're really talking about with masculine and feminine, because they are energies that are part of who we are as beings and that represent the aspects of who we actually are. This is where imbalances in any of these areas, but we are honing in on the masculine and feminine balance in each of us. When there are imbalances, this gets at what Megan and I refer to as fragmentation, right? For things to be imbalanced and out of proportion to each other within ourselves in any capacity, to make the imbalances make sense to us and to fit nicely into our model of the world, we have to put walls around certain concepts, like I always get hurt in relationship, right? Now, if someone really pushed you on that idea of, okay, every relationship, like, is it every single person that you know that you have a relationship with? Is this, a lot of times those statements, and we all know this, begin to sort of disintegrate, where people are like, well, that's not exactly what I mean. Like the important people in my life, blah, 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 this has happened, right? And that's what I mean, is that the reason that happens is that it's not the complete picture. Like, I'm not worthy of love, and that's behind walls in your brain. Sounds like it could be a statement that could be believable. And on the flip side, when really pressed, that argument falls apart at some point, right? Worthy enough to blow your nose, whatever it is. And it's like, what does that all mean? And as you take it apart, the walls begin to show themselves, because those statements, or I'm just worthless, or they're not true in every context. They just kind of fall apart to arguments. And that is kind of the explanation of why anything that is imbalanced in us, whether, men always hurt me, or women always cheat, or whatever it is, then any statement that we make that represents an imbalance of that also represents a fragmented aspect of our beingness. Walls that we have erected within us that divide parts of ourselves apart so that we can really hold statements like that as true while still interacting with the world, seeing the discrepancy of that, but it not bothering us, right? It has to be behind a wall, or you start noticing it. And when you start noticing it, that's where the problem starts, right? Or at least, I mean, not really, but that's how we see it. That's why we build the walls as high as we can around the things we really don't want to look at in ourselves. Now, the fragmentation then and those walls between us and us is what leads to the four dangers that we're going to talk about, and why these things that can happen from these imbalances are not necessarily small things. These are not, I didn't want to be like four things that happen, because it sounds like they'd be like nothing, but when you hear them, you'll kind of, I hope that you will understand why I actually chose dangers, because a lot of what we'll talk about here lies at the heart of what most people are looking for. And now, of course, this isn't to say that masculine and feminine balance is everything. It's not, but I'm using that topic as part of this series that we've been going along with to really highlight the importance here of this is not, fragmentation within ourselves is not something to ignore or to poo-poo or say like, oh, I'll get to it later, right? Because fragmentation within ourselves keeps out some really important things that many people are looking for. So let's get into number one. And number one is illness. Okay, so as a danger, fragmentation is what happens when you take a whole and then put up walls, right? You take a whole one and it's broken up into parts. When we are fragmented, when we see how that plays out across the four bodies, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, they all have expression there, but here's the deal, the physical body is the end result of all of that, right? So our emotions, our mindset, our thoughts, our spiritual body, and all of that are instructions, and it shows up in the body. And so that fragmentation, well, let me back up. Wholeness is healed, right? And especially notable fragmentation, but really any fragmentation starts and ultimately ends in illness, right? The expression of disease in the body, expressing something going on under the hood, and it is often represented across all four bodies. Not always, but usually, and it culminates in the physical body. And that's why illness, burnout, or someone staying at a job they really hate and then having a health event, or being in a relationship that really is not well suited for them, or even toxic or something like that, where they'll have health issues, or overworking, feelings of not being good enough, and I'll push just to prove how good I am, right? Eventually those kind of things culminate in illness. And this here too, where if our feminine is working overtime because she doesn't trust the masculine, and she's pushing and she's scheduling, she's organizing and doing all the stuff, right? Where's the creativity? Where is the flow? Where is the self-healing that the feminine can provide, the nurturing, the care, the calm, the peace, all of these things? And so that's just one small example, but illness to me deserved to be at the top of the list, because without our physical body taken care of, and our physical body, allowing us to have the freedom to do what we want to do, everything else becomes exponentially more difficult. And Megan and I have said kind of from the very beginning, good health is a springboard for everything else we want to do in life. And that's certainly true here too in this discussion. So that was number one. Number two, low creativity, productivity, and motivation. So really kind of like illness, most people do not want these things. Many of you listening are leaders, coaches, practitioners, people out in the world who can see what could be better, and they're willing to take action to do it. At the same time, though, when we do when we engage in masculine and feminine imbalances and do things that continue to perpetuate them, it can really hit us in that creativity, productivity, and motivation space. And that is because creativity is often associated with the more feminine dynamic, and then productivity, I think, falls under both in some regard. And then motivation, often that directive force, that where are we going, why are we doing it? That's the masculine associated with the masculine. And so in the interplay of these three things, they're quite sensitive to being imbalanced. If we are all about productivity and we lose our creativity, and our motivation wanes, which makes us sick, this is where they can start to interplay with each other. And then overall, what does that do? Loop back around to even lower creativity, productivity, and motivation, right? So imbalances, even though it looks like, well, I'm really doing good with this one thing, can really create a domino effect to start going down the line and creating other issues. And this is where, when you make a living off of being your own motivator, no one tells you to go into the office, you run your own business, you schedule your own clients, you make your own podcasts, you create the handouts and send them to the team, right? When all of this is at stake and that's your livelihood, low creativity, productivity, and motivation can be just as scary as something like illness for people, right? Because that still boils down to people's income and their livelihood and the reason they feel good about themselves. People want to be healthy. People want to feel like they have their creative juices flowing and it's fun and they're motivated to do what they love and all of that good stuff, right? So these two, very, very important. All right, number 3 is delayed manifestations. All right, so delayed manifestations, or you could say slow results, or not really kind of giving up on even the desire for a while. That can show up as that too. So this number 3, near and dear to people's heart too, right? That's why I was like, I wanna call this something a little more strongly worded, because as you're hearing, this list is pretty hefty. People want what they want, and they want it as fast as humanly possible. And we totally agree. That's why all our stuff's Transformation Accelerator, right? And so the delayed manifestation, that is to hold desires in your heart and to do things to work at them and to work on yourself and to keep not getting them, is incredibly detrimental. People try to make it sound like, oh, well, that can be life, and life's hard and things don't happen. No, we need to stop talking like that as a society. Like, literally, that when you want something, the best thing for you, as long as it's good for you and for the world, right? Like, if you want something that is inherently good, like you want your family to be good and you want other people to thrive and the planet to be peaceful and joyful and loving, like, if it's on that topic, then the world benefits from you having it as fast as humanly possible. The happier you are, the more you're willing to go out and do good in the world, which helps other people do good in the world. And that's what we're all really after. So this whole thing of, we'll just sit tight and let go and surrender. And I'm not saying force manifestation. I'm not saying command the world to be, right this second exactly what you want. At the same time, I'm also not a proponent of telling people to just sit back and wait for stuff. Sometimes we got to wait for stuff. That is just an inherent part of life. But why do that more than you need to? I don't want to do really any more of that than I need to. Anything that's for me, I'm meant to have, I want, and then I want to go on to the next thing and then do that and then enjoy that and then go on to the next thing and get enjoyment from that. Like, that's how I want to live my life, right? So for all of us, it's not only that, you're sad when you don't have what you want, but when you live a life or day in and day out, you don't have what you want, and the next year you don't really have what you want, and the next year life doesn't seem to get that much better, and you still don't have what you want in 8 years, and then you're 35, and then you're 42, and all of a sudden, what happens? People don't maintain that forever. They don't just sit tight for forever and wait for their ship to come in. People start to lose faith, and people start to have habitual patterns of thought that look like no matter what I do, it's hopeless. No matter what happens. And like when you look around, look on social media, look at the people in your life, there's a lot of people hurting, and there's a lot of people that feel like the world's just too hard to overcome this stuff. I'm just one person, and the economy's bad, and the government doesn't know what they're doing, and the world's not working together, and there's wars, right? Like there's a lot of hopelessness and giving up, and so to me, this is not some small little like, oh, people are sad because they don't get the car they want. No, I'm not talking about that stuff. I mean, sure, if the car's going to make you happy, get the car. I don't care. But what we're talking about here is the big long-term ripple effect of people living life feeling not empowered, feeling like they're helpless and they're hopeless, and that they're just one little powerless being in a big cruel world, right? And so that is what block manifestations on a collective level can do, and we see that, right? And so to me, it's a big deal to have conversations about aspects of us as something as crucial, as important as our feminine masculine balance in ourselves, and how we interact with those two energies within us, and how we interact with other people's expression of feminine and masculine balance. Who, the ripple effects will be huge, because as we heal that fragmentation within us, as we then become whole, our energy is more powerful to get our manifestations, to create what we want, to go after what we want, and to finalize getting it. Not just want it, not just work for it, but actually get it and actually enjoy it. See it all the way through. So that's number 3. And as you can tell, I got really hopped up on that one. But man, I feel strongly about this one because, like, well, I mean, if you just heard me say that, I mean, hopefully you understand why that matters to me so much. But those are hefty consequences, right? And I think that it takes the people like you, the leaders, the thought leaders, the coaches, the practitioners out in the world talking to other humans, to be sharing the information that is healing, so that we, all of us, can create the life that we desire and all benefit from that, and to in self healing, and to step into our power, really do that powerfully for the world, right? And I think everyone will be a lot better off, which is awesome. All right. And then number 4, let's finish this list out: blocked intuition. So this one, with masculine and feminine, intuition is present for both of them. People like to talk mostly about the feminine. That is very true. Feminine as like the ocean, the depths of the unknown, all of that stuff. The feminine energy can access a lot of information, but we all carry both, right? So that's not to say that someone who's predominantly masculine doesn't also have that feminine aspect of themselves too, that they can access information. At the same time, the masculine is also intuitive, and that energy is intuitive in its own right. To me, the way that I would phrase it is that they sound differently, the information comes through differently, but the masculine is not devoid of information. The masculine receives information as well, but it comes through and is expressed differently in the masculine. And so in each of us, no matter which one we have a predominance of, we all are equipped to be able to access information that we can't see out in the world with our physical eyes. right? It's maybe a better way, instead of saying intuition, is saying sensing. How do you pick up information in the world? Oh, go to this restaurant. That's where you have the best time. Oh, definitely don't go to this one. Definitely don't order the lamb, right? That quiet, still voice that helps us navigate our world, that is beyond something that the human eye can see. The blocking of that, the not accessing of that, generally makes navigating life, and especially the top three: illness, low creativity, productivity, motivation, and delayed manifestations, with the added blocked intuition and blocked sense, it can be really hard to figure out how to undo all of that, right? And that is why, knowing how hard it can be, I'm making podcast episodes speaking exactly to where people get hung up, right? And I'm kind of laying out the pitfalls as clearly as I can, so that when you all are listening, you can start to be like, oh, this is how it's all interacting. How can I begin to utilize this information? And in doing so, I can track how my health is, how creative and productive I'm feeling, how fast I'm getting results with stuff, how is my intuition doing. And as you look at real life things to look and gauge how you're doing and get a picture, it tends to smooth out the experience, because you're more clear about what you're doing, and that makes it easier to stick through the hard points in the road and the bumps along the way. Then the other one is that you know what to track in terms of improvement. So let's say those manifestations are still more delayed than you would like, but you have the awareness of, ooh, I used my intuition for this and this awesome thing happened, and I used it for this and this awesome thing happened, and I went here and it was really fun, and I totally didn't even expect it, right? Now, instead of just sitting around crying because you didn't get your manifestation, thinking there's something wrong with you, in looking at multiple things, you can say, well, not on this one. I can still totally have valid feelings of disappointment and sadness and, whatever I need to feel there. And at the same time, I can acknowledge and celebrate how far I've come with my intuition. I must be making improvements, because this has all been true for me. And now I can give myself the kudos. And when the mental gremlins get loud that you're a failure and you never do anything right, I have this to stand on now, right? And when a manifestation comes in that I like, I add that to the list of what is working for me, so that I am motivated to keep going, right? It's restoring balance to the masculine and feminine, of saying, I get to flow with myself with increased awareness. I get to really allow myself to be who I am and flow with it, that meeting the feminine's needs. And then masculinity being like, what choices do I want to make? What direction do I want to give myself? And how am I going to keep myself moving on this path so that I could see it through? And the combination of working on that and seeing it all play out is so magical, because we begin to understand things about ourselves that give us insight on why we do things, what we do it for, and why do we react the way we do to things. And also about about moving forward, how do we want to interact with those parts of ourselves in a more intentional way, like getting into the specifics of what we want to do. So those are the 4 dangers that we want to talk about. And then to finish it off, we just had a little discussion on how these things can be used to kind of diagnose the imbalance, where it's like, ooh, these things are happening, okay, but also to track in reverse of, I am healing, I can do this. It is all, I have the specific things that I'm choosing to do that move me forward. And in bringing healing to this, I can now track the wins and to encourage myself along the way until I'm convinced or until the next layer comes up or the next life serves up the next lifing or whatever it is that's going to happen. But these are all really rewarding to free up again when they have gotten imbalanced, because to feel good in your body, to trust in your creativity and your ability to be productive, to create your life at a pace that you like and enjoy, to trust your intuition, these are big deals. This is the kind of stuff that you can't really put necessarily a price label on or some value to, but these things bring happiness on their own. But when you choose to do something good in the world with them and for yourself as part of that world, well, gosh, it gets even juicier. And that is always an amazing thing. Alrighty, that is it for today's podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you have enjoyed this, I would love it and appreciate it so much if you would leave us a review. It helps other people find us and helps us spread the word, especially if you have any coaches, thought leaders, practitioners of any kind, teachers, anybody who works with other people to help them live their life, to grow and expand, to heal and step into who they really are. We would super appreciate you sharing this podcast with them so that they can get the tools and resources that they need, and also to give them the tools and resources to help transform people's life even faster, since that's what we are best at. So thank you so much for joining me again. I will see you all on the next one, and I'm sending you lots and lots of love.
And we are going to end today's episode with a couple words from one of our fabulous attendees at the last 2-day habit event. So check out what she has to say.
I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to participate in the Compassionate Habit Transformation 2-day event with Zesty. Not only are these events impactful and inspiring, but I've developed the skills that I need to take all my habits and make them into transformative goals. And to have this opportunity to do it with other people, being in a community, is just priceless. You feel the energy in the room and you are able to be inspired and inspire other people on their journey.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podcasts helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.